all have a little aggressive side of us, especially athletes. It's very important to channelize that aggression in the correct manner. The pharmacology industry has evolved so much that we have an entire cafeteria of protection, how to protect our skin products available already on the shelf. It's very important to also know that ideally sunscreens are to be applied in a certain quantity to be effective, and then they have to be also reapplied.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of RunPlayGo-Unfiltered. I'm Shivani Singh and we have with us today Dr. Priyanka Mantri. In this episode, we will be demystifying the skin of sport, which in simple terms means all the skin issues that an athlete faces during intense training and the do's and don'ts from a dermatologist's perspective for a safe and healthy training plan. You know her as a top dermatologist and aesthetic physician. But what you may not know is Dr. Priyanka Mantri only stepped into sport at 38, battling back pain, fatigue and years of never having played a sport in her life. Today at 47, she's a powerhouse, a strength athlete, cyclist, mother of two and certified precision nutrition coach. In this segment, she brings together science and sweat, skin and strength, sharing everything athletes need to know, how to train and race with skin that's as resilient as their mindset. Let's jump into this and more with Dr. Priyanka in this very important conversation. Welcome Priyanka to this very interesting conversation and this episode of Skin of Sport on RunPlayGo-Unfiltered. I can't wait to dive into this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Shivani, to invite me to this a little extension of what we talk in the mornings, and I'm happy to share what I know and what I've learned over the years. Thank you so much.
And you're absolutely right. In the morning we catch up, post our sessions, respective sessions, and there's so much, apart from banter, there's so much knowledge that we end up sharing at that point in time. So, and that was the genesis of actually creating this show, where we want a lot of athletes who don't have access to knowledge and information, which should be freely available. So it's in a way democratizing knowledge, which right now I feel is a is a preview of a lot of people like us, where we have access to specialists like you during our normal morning conversations. But I think this knowledge, specifically this conversation that we are having today, needs to be far more easily accessible to everyone.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being a part of it, and thank you for sharing your journey, and B, all the bank of knowledge that you have on not just skin but nutrition and so much more. As an athlete, as a cyclist, as a podium finisher, multiple podiums that you have garnered on your way, and thanks for all of that. So let's start.
Yes.
So you shared that you began your journey at 38. How did your perspective as a doctor influence the way you approach fitness? Was it differently than most other beginners, or it started just like most of us started?
Well, at 38, once I was a mother of two very active children, and also trying to get back to my clinical practice after a little hiatus, I felt that my body wasn't, even though I was just 37, 38, my body wasn't keeping up with me, and I used to work the day and come back home, not have enough time for the kids, while at work always feel guilty. Being a doctor, however, I was able to notice these changes, what I was going through, and realize that something needs to be addressed here. And I knew everything. I wasn't a lost soul over there, but I wasn't prioritizing it. So that is the major shift that happened around the age of 37, 38. Then my husband himself, he insisted that I should, start taking out some time for myself and start, something related to getting healthier, getting fitter, getting more clearer in my own mind. So that's how the journey started. And being a doctor, we knew that, strength training is the basis for anything and everything you do in future. So I started by joining a basic gym and, just trying to get the basic movements in, starting with body weight movements, and slowly and steadily, as we were exposed to all the facilities available around us, all the options available around us, came across a very vibrant community of like-minded people who were working out together, in a very social atmosphere, also simultaneously gaining a lot in fitness. And not just fitness, a lot of them were in fact driven much more than being, getting to more than fitness, into getting, ahead with racing and competing. So we were exposed to that very vibrant community, and that's how the entire journey began for me.
So, that takes me to a very interesting question. Was it hard after, and it would have been a major shift in identity for you, from being a doctor and a mother and to that of an athlete now,
Well,
at the age of 38. So in your mind, internally and externally, was that an unusual journey? Because most of us start that, at much younger years, when we are in school or, a little later or all of that. So suddenly from being a mother and a doctor, very clear, clean identity, to now, you start identifying yourself as a full-time athlete.
So when I began, it was basically just to, start feeling more energy within me. It wasn't to start competing or racing or, signing up for events. It was nothing like that for me. It was just discovering myself, discovering what was my potential and what I could give back to my family. It all began like that. So it was, everything was going simultaneously. As you start devoting a set amount of time, a dedicated time towards fitness, you have to, of course, adjust that, the other hours of the day accordingly. And I think it's the best to align your family and align your work alongside. So everything was going on simultaneously. So the shift from becoming a mother and a doctor towards, focusing on my own self as fitness, and then over the years turning into a dedicated, hardworking athlete, it just came with the flow. So my kids were smaller back then. Now I'm 47, so now my kids are teenagers. They were smaller, but my husband and I, between the two of us, we shared the responsibility. So he would go at a certain time for his workouts, I would go at a certain time. Whoever was back home used to take care of the home stuff. Slowly I also started making my kids independent, and they put their own alarms to get up and to get ready by themselves so that they can go to school, so that we are able to both of us simultaneously attend our workouts. So all of that shift was happening simultaneously. I was slowly, as I started to focus a lot on building my cycling strength and starting to compete in events and international events, I started working around my work timings as well. So I had to take a couple of mornings. I start my work later in the day, so that I can fit in that 2-3 hours of training. This is in weekdays I'm talking about. The weekends are another story. So the longest of the endurance sessions happen over the weekends. So adjusting social life, adjusting family life, everything was slowly and steadily coming together. So I feel that I cannot separate the athlete in me from the mother and the physician that I am. Everything is one person. So I'm handling everything as one person. And each and every aspect of my life is reflecting into each other.
So it sort of all came together piece by piece. And kind of took you to the person that you are today.
So one has to consciously make the effort for everything to come together.
So tell me, Priyanka, this makes me think, was there a pivotal moment, or was it a breakthrough race, or maybe a podium, or a specific training session, when it came to your mind that it's no more about mere health now? I'm here to compete. And I've seen that journey in you. Like you said, it was step by step. First a doctor, and then came motherhood, and then after motherhood, the consciousness about self-care and health came in, and from there you transitioned into this athlete. And I've seen this myself, the fierce athlete that you are today, and I see that every morning. The single-minded focus that you're there with. So when did that shift came in? When you said, health is good, I'm sorted on that, but let's do this now. So I would say that there were 2 points in my life. One is fairly recent, but I'll first go back to the first point in my life when I
started doing a lot, strength training and weightlifting. And then slowly and steadily I realized that this is passion for me, like lifting heavier weights and, being able to push through those things and do it with, the desired perfect form and, the muscle build that was happening simultaneously. I was really amused by it and also amazed by it. The change in that was bringing to me in my body and in my mind, pushing through barriers and pushing through things, self-doubting yourself and then being able to overcome that and achieve things. So I think that happened when, 2-3 years into when I started my fitness journey, about 2-3 years after that. And that is the point then I started to explore about powerlifting, trying to push through barriers, lifting heavier every session. So that gave me a lot of confidence in myself and that, I could achieve this and I'd such a frail body can achieve this and such a, self-doubting mind can overcome barriers and achieve a lot of things.
Correct.
So that is what gave me the consistency also, the inclination, the discipline and consistency then just started to, feel very normal. The second breakthrough I would say is fairly recent. I just participated in this event of a cyclothon just this March. And this was the first time while riding in the race, I experienced the thrill of racing against each other. So we were a group of people that just unconsciously came together on that cycling route. A group of about 10-15 people, 4-5 of us were women, and we were really unconsciously pushing each other to get faster. And
so it wasn't a planned race.
It was a race, it was an event, but that attitude shift in me of just riding my own best to starting to keep an eye out for the other and competing and trying to outdo them. That just spontaneously came into me in that race, and like that led me to really push myself beyond limits and finish with the sprint I had never even imagined at hitting certain power numbers I never imagined I could.
The adrenaline
and
rush
although I
this,
did not make the podium in any way, but that the different level of thrill that it gave, and the different level of satisfaction it brought, because we all have a little aggressive side of us. So I feel that it's very important, especially athletes. It's very important to channelize that aggression in the correct manner. So all of that aggression can be very absolutely challenged in a racing mindset. So I feel that shift, although I have had podiums before, but all of those paid podiums were kind of incidental. I've been working hard, doing good at sessions and gave my best in a race, not expecting podiums, not aiming for podiums, but they just kind of happened. But here, although I did not get a podium, but now I feel that, I have to work just this much, little bit more. And then I can really do justice to podiums or, really get up there.
It's a racing mindset.
It is the mindset
from what I'm hearing that from you in this is probably evolving the next step for you, next stage for you, which is the racing mindset.
So I'm looking forward to participating in more such races where I can be head on with such similar people with similar mindsets. So that has been fairly recent, just a couple of months ago.
And that's such an athlete mindset. I completely relate with what you're saying. You have a streak of good results, basis your fantastic training periods or months that you've gone through, and you have a good result. And then right after that, you are refining the strategy for the next events to come ahead.
Because you kind of along the way you keep discovering yourself.
Absolutely.
You keep
each threshold crossed is gives rise to the next
every race, every event, wherever you participate, you always come back with so much learning. It all it makes sense to put that learning into practice for the next one.
Absolutely. And that's so fantastic. So which basically means we can now look forward to string of podiums over the next coming year.
Not aiming for podiums, but aiming for giving my even better self out there.
Absolutely. And there needs to be a goal. I always feel, as an athlete, especially in my case, unless I have a goal in front of me, you know, a specific race or a tough challenge that I want to take on myself, you know, that focus doesn't come in for me in terms of, you know, so you need to have something to work towards. The moment I have that in front of me, then everything falls in place. So, so I see your goal, and all the very best for that.
Thank you, and same to you.
Yeah, thanks, and so much more power to you, Priyanka. So now, you know, coming into the next part, which is, I think, a very, very important conversation to have. And also, you know, I felt that while there is a lot of discussion and awareness about various other medical aspects of being an athlete, that we, you know, from time to time we go and do our health checkups, we, you know, we check our deficiencies sometimes when we are not feeling that great. There is some amount of consciousness on nutrition in terms of, you know, protein intake and generally diet and stuff like that. But I felt that skin health is something that we often ignore unless and until we land into some trouble.
Right.
That there is some specific issue comes, and then we run to the doctor, and then, you know, we take the required medicine. But then after that we go back to the same. You know, little issues here and there, little chafing happens in summers, and we put some sunblock, but it ends at that. And there is actually really nothing beyond that that we do on a regular basis or are even aware of. So, so I'm very excited to actually go deeper in this with you. What I want to know is that what exactly happens to the skin microbiome during our long endurance sessions that we do, and especially in the hot and humid conditions like right now. You know, in India we are almost 8 to 9 months, depending on where you're based, in extremely hot conditions. And most of us are going to be training through the summer now in the next 6 months. So does our microbiome change during this time? Is there something that we need to be aware of in this?
Right, so all of us are born with a very healthy microbiome on our skins, and when we indulge, we sweat, then, you know, we are exposed to all these climatic factors like, you know, dust and grime, all the pollutants and everything, and even not just the pollutants, even if, you know, pollen and, you know, those, the natural good things in the air, they can also react on our skin.
Absolutely.
So of course the microbiome changes in those hours and going on in the days and months also, because our skin releases a lot of sweat. And that sweat tends to stay on our skin for long hours if we are doing long endurance races. All that sweat attracts a lot of bacteria, viruses, fungal spores and everything that settles, and pollen and everything, and it can lead to various kinds of infections. The sweat can lead to chafing, a lot of, you know, in the fold areas, to the extent that you can start bleeding from those areas while you are in your workouts. And then, you know, all the allergies can tend to come up. The immune system, the skin barrier, everything breaks down. So yes, of course, long endurance events or even shorter ones, in fact any kind of exercise would change the microbiome instantly and in the long run. So one has to be very mindful of, you know, how it is going to happen and what all it can do to you. So, you know, taking precautions is very important. Also taking good care of hygiene, especially after you finish your workouts, is an extremely important thing as a precaution and as a prevention to getting all those infections that can happen to you. Right, so it does change quite a bit and one has to be aware.
Also, you know, most of us are outdoors for long periods of time, you know, compared to a normal person. Our morning routines, you know, whenever you're doing your long ride, and when I'm doing my training for an event and I'm doing intensive 3-4 hours of training on a couple of days a week, so then there is this constant exposure to UV and of course the pollutants that you said. So, you know, while it sounds very logical that obviously it will have an impact on my quality of skin and you know, it will accelerate aging to some extent, which we personally feel happens. But is there actual science to it? And can it also lead to skin conditions like rosacea? I see in some athletes, melasma.
Right.
You know, all of that. So what role? That isn't a myth, or how do you prevent it? And what's really the science?
Right. So yeah, it's absolutely not a myth. It is real.
Yeah.
And that is what I, as a dermatologist, is my constant, what I see in my clinic day in, day out. So of course there is chronological aging, which is the natural aging processes of our body, which none of us has any control over.
Correct.
And then there is what we call as photoaging,
Right.
which is aging made faster because
Yeah.
of all the external elements, like especially the ultraviolet light.
Yes.
And we being outdoor athletes, we work out outdoors, we run outdoors, we cycle outdoors. Most of the work happens outdoors, and not just outdoors. In fact, in our office times, we are sitting under such heavy infrared lighting.
Yeah.
And we are constantly for hours together exposed to computer screens, which are putting out a lower dose, but yes, it is also putting out ultraviolet light. So
Screens we are
essentially, it's
exposed to,
not just the sun, it's a lot of places we are exposed to ultraviolet light. So prevention again is very important. And we are lucky that in today's date, the technology and all of this, the pharmacology industry has evolved so much that we have an entire cafeteria of protection, how to protect our skin products available already on the shelf. Also, depending on skin type, we can pick the ones that we like. So yes, absolutely, sunscreens are the most important, the first number one top priority for preventing photoaging. For sunscreens, in fact, should be used by everybody, at least on the face, neck exposed areas. Especially for the athletes, now there are sports specific sunscreens available, which are water resistant, longer lasting, they don't wash off with sweat. So all these products are out there in the market, I think. Rather than just logging on to Instagram and just coming across all these random products and all, I think certain few things in your vanity case should be specific things which work and which are recommended by experts.
Correct.
So I feel that sunscreen is one such thing that you should really get your dermatologist's recommendation depending on your skin type, depending upon your profile, whether you're outdoors, indoors, what kind of office you work in, what kind of a screen exposure do you have, what is your skin type. Skin also changes as we age.
That's right.
According to that, you should have your dermatologist recommend you the proper sunscreen for prevention.
Correct. So it's like a customized solution which you should be looking at.
Absolutely.
Instead of just picking up something anything off the shelf which says 50 SPF and in our kind of honestly in our kind of weather, which is humid as well as extremely hot at times. 7 o'clock in the morning, it's peak sun, right?
You may need a different sunscreen depending on the season as well.
Absolutely.
And all of this is available.
Correct.
All of this your dermatologist can recommend to you accordingly.
Yes.
And you will really benefit out of it.
So a consult with the dermatologist, maybe once a year kind of a thing should suffice for that.
Should suffice. I think when we are looking at, checking our entire parameters of health, is when you should also include these things in your checkups.
Absolutely.
Just a routine visit to suggest you accordingly. And now I do see a lot of patients just walking in without any disease, without any complaints, just for having the correct recommendations for their skin type.
Correct. And Priyanka, in your experience, since you are also dealing with a lot of athletes who come in now, so what are some of the common mistakes that you see, especially the beginner athletes who end up making, which kind of they're not aware that it's quietly damaging their skin, and by the time they catch it, it's already a little late. So what are some of the things for someone who's just starting out running right now, or cycling, or any of the endurance sports, that they must, these are the 5 do's that have to be done?
Well, the most common thing that I encounter with the beginners is the mistake they made with what kind of attire or clothing they're using for their workouts and sports specific workouts. Most of them believe that cotton is absorbent fabric, soft on the skin.
Correct.
So for workouts, when they're sweating heavily, they wear cotton clothing, but cotton keeps and holds the sweat against their skin for
Yes.
long hours.
Yes.
So they should actually be looking at, wearing dry fit clothing. With cotton, they end up using that day in, day out. And then, all of the sweat that is still in contact with the skin attracts a whole lot of fungal infections. Risk of chafing is much more if your wet clothing is constantly rubbing against your skin.
Absolutely.
So infections, chafing, everything worsens.
Yeah.
So the first and foremost is, to advise them to use the proper kind of clothing. It's a little investment. It's a very small investment, but most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So it's just being aware that dry fit clothing is really going to go a long way.
Yeah.
And now there are so many brands available at different price points,
Correct.
which are easily, very good fabrics. So it's easily accessible and out there. You just need to know that you can use it.
Yes.
And then number two, like we already spoke about using sunscreens.
Yes.
It's very important to also know that ideally sunscreens are to be applied in a certain quantity to be effective, and then they have to be also reapplied after a few hours to be again
This
effective.
very few people know.
Very few people.
Yeah.
Very few people know. People know, but then out of laziness, they don't put it in practice also.
Yeah.
And then swimmers. So hair damage with swimmers and the skin damage with swimmers because of the chlorine content of the water. Nobody seems to attend to it, and nobody seems to take care. All they want is getting faster at swims.
Correct.
But slowly their skin is taking all the brunt of it, and they are aging faster. They look much older than they actually are because their skin has taken all the toll. So post sport care, post your workout care is very important, and it is the basic things, just taking care of your skin is pretty basic.
Yeah.
You keep it, you wash it well, you moisturize it well, and then you protect it well, is all the things you need. You don't need fancy peptides and actives all the time to glow, for it to glow. And also food, the choice of food and hydration. So these are very, very basic things one needs to understand are right there in front of you. All you need to do is pay attention and to incorporate it. Yeah.
And also the skin health is very closely connected to the gut health.
Absolutely.
So, so they say that if your gut is healthy, everything that you see externally is going to be glowing as well. So that inherent connection.
Yes. So whatever you eat, if your gut isn't healthy, all the nutrients will not be absorbed. If your gut isn't absorbing it, it's not even coming to your skin. It's not going anywhere. It's just being excreted.
Correct.
So whatever multivitamins, supplements, you can keep popping in. If you don't have the gut to absorb it all, it's only getting wasted. You're just wasting the vitamins, you're just wasting the money. So it all, like I said, again, very basic things. Know your gut, know what suits you, what goes well with you, how you feel after eating something. If it doesn't suit you, then avoid. Include good amount of fiber in your diet, include more whole foods, chew your food well, spend time chewing and eating, all of that. Be mindful about it. So all of these things play a big role in a good skin health.